Ideally, clicking on a note in the list would not only populate the form, but would actually give you a URL straight to that note. I've only got one note here. Let's add another. For one thing, I can't bookmark a particular note. So I have this note loaded in the form. I refresh the page. I'm still in notes, but I don't have that note loaded anymore. That's a bummer. And it means I can't use the back button to navigate between notes. Now I'm on this note, now I'm on this one, now I'm on that one. I hit back, and it took me actually to sign in and redirected me. So it would be nice to have each note have a slot in my history. So how about we add a route for a particular note. So this is only relevant if we're already on main, right? If we've already redirected to /notes and we're rendering main. So this probably belongs in main.js. So we need a route for this. How about we import route? Import route. Excuse me. Route is a named export from React Router DOM. And let's see. Way down in render. Well, it's going to render note form either way, and it just depends on well, it's going to render the same thing either way. It's still going to render note form. So let's see here. Let's just put a route in here, see what we can do. Route path equals, what's the path? /notes slash the ID of the note, perhaps? So how about /notes / ID, like that? That makes it a param. But where does that go? Well, it just goes to note form. Seems to go to note form either way. Let's say route, path, notes, node ID, render. Arrow function. And it's going to do this. But it's going to do that anyway. It just depends on what current node is. So, by the way, when you use a render method inside a route like that, you know, if you use component equals whatever, it's going to pass along those props, location, history, and match. What if you do it this way? What if you use location? Now we're saying which props to pass on. So what you can actually do is it will pass those props as an argument to your render method. I'll call them nav props just to be clear. So it passes those in like that. So if you want them available, you actually have to pass them in then. So I could say nav props equal nav props like that. Or here's a trick we haven't seen before. We can actually use the spread operator. The same thing that we use when we copy an object, or we put all of the items from one object into another, like we do when we set state sometimes. You can do that here too. So like this. Putting the spread operator in there takes all of the properties of nav props and adds them as properties to note form. So you're basically just taking all of these props and adding them here. So heck, we could do that with these too if we wanted to. Let's see about that. Demonstrate what I mean. I could say const form props equals an object. Object contains current note. Value is this.state.current note. Save note. Value is this.save note. Remove current note. Value is this.remove current note. So I've got this variable form props now that contains those three things. Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you know what I'm going to do next? This is form props. So down here, I could replace these three things with spread form props. It just makes my JSX a little more manageable. And passing in nav props means that I get history, location, and match down in note form. So it's the same principle as when we did something like this. Let lunch equal lunch equal entree 20 sandwiches, side, veggie chips, dessert, Nutter Butters, and then I could say let meals equal breakfast, cereal, comma, lunch. And then I end up with breakfast, entree, side, and dessert all in there. So I copy all the properties from one object into another object literal. We're doing the same thing here. So I have a bunch of props saved as an object here. And I want all of those props as props to note form. So first of all, we have to use the curly braces in JSX if we want to put some JavaScript in there. And then we can use the spread operator to just get all of the properties of that other object. Totally works. So now it seems like I want to render note form either way. So maybe I add a switch in here. So let's wrap this in a switch. So the default, let me do that again. So this is if the path is notes/some ID. Otherwise, I need a default route. And default route is actually going to render the same darn thing. So what's the difference and what's the point? So this one just doesn't have a path. It's the default route. What's the point here? What's going to be different? It looks like I'm rendering exactly the same thing. The only difference is what these nav props are going to be. Because nav props, remember, is history, location, and match. And if you happen to have a param in your route, that's going to be on that match prop. match.params.id. So that ID is going to be there if it was this route, if it was this path. If it hits this route, that isn't going to be there. So that's the difference between these two. One of them has an ID. So although we haven't done it yet, we're going to use that. We're going to actually do something with that. So let's see if it... Now we haven't actually linked to it either. So we've got these routes defined, but we're not actually doing anything with them. Add a route that includes a note ID param. So we've added that route. We learned a little bit about passing in nav props to a render method, and we learned about using the spread operator to pass props.